Welcome back. It's good to see everybody. I'll start off with today. I thought it went really well for a first day. What you thought you would get out of first day, I think we see we have a veteran group in a lot of positions, especially with the ones. We got to continue to develop those younger guys, but I really was pleased with, the first day of practice. I think I've learned a tremendous amount from last year preparing for the first day of practice to this year, right? You understand that the emotions of the young people are going to be crazy. So we try to really structure the practice that we could be safe and also make sure they understand like it's a process to get to where we want to go. Next thing I want to make sure we send our condolences to Johnny Lujak and his family and friends. He's one of the most prestigious and accomplished Notre Dame football players in history. And so just want to make sure I do that. I'm going to address Matt Balis, and then I'm sure we'll have questions. And I want to just be as transparent as I can with you all, right? And I don't know what's being written and everything. But Matt called me on Sunday and informed me that he was wanting to resign. And I was caught off guard. We met on Monday and talked about it. And ultimately, his reason was that he couldn't serve the players in the capacity that he felt he should in his position, right? It's a personal matter. That's how he left it with me. And I tried to talk him out of it, right? I have the utmost respect for Matt Balis, and we have a great relationship. But ultimately, it was a personal decision, and it came down to, I can't serve the players in the capacity that I feel like I need to being the head strength coach. And so we accepted his resignation. And, as I said in the press release, Fred Hale will lead the strength conditioning program moving forward, and we'll go forward from there, okay? Circling back to football, listen, I've told the group yesterday when we checked in and today, it's two things as you look at from now until we get to Dublin, Ireland, right, is that when you look at it in the macro picture, right, the big picture, it's a process. It's a bumpy road to Dublin, Ireland, and I want the coaches to understand that, the players to understand it, but when we look at this in a micro view, we have to look at this thing as one day, one life, and we have to have an urgency to fix the mistakes. And so I want our players and our coaches to have such urgency in fixing and correcting mistakes. But I want them to understand after practice that mistakes happen, and we're going to improve from them. And don't let what happened in the last practice affect the next practice because it is a bumpy road to Dublin, Ireland. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
First question will be second row on your left, Pete Byrne.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Hey, Pete.
You may have just answered this, but I noticed that you were pretty animated with the team in your pre-practice address. I was curious what you told them, if it wasn't what you just told us, and what did you want to communicate, and do you think you got the response you wanted to get from that message?
Yeah, usually I don't have them take a knee, but I wanted to for the first day. Like, I know their emotions were high, so take a knee, catch your breath. It was pretty warm, and basically I told them two things, is that I want them to really focus on learning today, really focus on listening and intent to learn, right? We have to understand, like, we have to correct mistakes, maybe without getting physical reps. Like, mentally, we have to listen, take coaching from our coaches. And then the second point was there's going to be mistakes. I'll tell you right now, I get it, but I want to see guys that play with the effort and attitude that we only accept here at Notre Dame, right? And that's we say through it, not to it, but as hard as you possibly can go. And that's what I didn't want them. I don't want you to slow down because you are uncertain. Just go as hard as you can, and we'll correct the mistakes. That's kind of what I told them pre-practice.
A guy that we've noticed over the years, he's a pretty energetic guy. I'm curious what his role now becomes and what's sort of his background. What's his qualifications to kind of pick up where Matt left off?
Yeah, well, Fred was the only guy in the strength and conditioning program that has actually led a program, right? He was the head strength coach at Eastern Michigan before he came here, and so he has the experience of doing it. And so the plan has been already created, right? And as I told those guys, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, we need to continue to carry on a plan that's been really created from myself, Coach Balis, and our whole strength and conditioning, our strength and performance staff. And so I think they'll all do a great job, right? I told everybody, your job is to make sure that our strength and conditioning program has no dip. right? We continue to excel in making sure our guys are ready to play these 12 guaranteed opportunities that we have.
Next question will be from John Bryce, front row on your right.
Hey, Marcus, you referenced.
It was working.
You referenced the fact that it is a veteran team, especially among the ones. So when you have sudden change like the Matt Balis situation, how much do you challenge those veterans and how much do you lean on those veterans? I guess it's a little bit similar to losing Tommy, just basically on the eve of spring camp.
Yeah, change it's inevitable, right? And that's what I told the group. Like, I was as hurt as anybody by losing somebody I respect and enjoy working with, and that hurts. But time doesn't stop. That's the reality of this thing, is that we have to continue to move forward. Leaders lead. Leaders continue to lead. I don't care if Matt Balis, our head strength coach, or Marcus Freeman's the head strength. Leaders lead. And that's what they'll continue to do, because time's not slowing down. And we understand that we have an objective in front of us and making sure we're ready for Dublin, Ireland, right? And so our guys did a great job of refocusing themselves. Listen, it's not saying like it doesn't affect them, right? But we have to continue to move forward. And this won't be the last change, or this won't be the last thing that happens to this group, right? And I don't know when the next thing or change will happen, but time doesn't stop. So we have to move forward, and we have to do a good job as coaches to be there for our players, right? I'm not saying we're not there for our players. Like, hey, you got to move on. No, we got to be there to listen to them and be there to support our guys. Coaches got to support each other. But we have to continue to move forward.
It's your first day of fall camp as a head coach. So did you notice that the guys were more attuned to your expectations, to your foundation, to the culture that you've been instilling since you took over?
Yeah, I tried to structure practice in a way to get the results that I wanted, right? And I thought back to last year, my first practice. I was just like the kids. And that's not saying I'm not excited. It's the first day of practice. Everybody's excited. But I was probably like the players in terms of like, oh, my God, it's the first day of practice. We got to go. And I look back at the results of that practice, and it probably wasn't what I want. It wasn't what I wanted. And so I wanted to structure practice in a way that really could get the results at the end of practice that I wanted. And so I think experience for myself was most important. And then I reiterated to the players, like, guys, there's periods that are meant for this and periods that are meant for that, right? This is a run-through period, or this is a full-speed period, and they understand the expectations. And so it is a mature group. A lot of those guys, especially the older guys, have been here with me through one season, so they understand the expectation. I thought they did a good job of practicing today.
Next question, front row on your left, Pete Sampson.
Marcus, at some point this summer, Sam Hartman was talking about, there's a difference between getting guys to play with you and play for you as a quarterback, and I was interested in sort of how he's tried to get guys to play for him here it's still somewhat short amount of time, but he's familiar now. How has he tried to get the for?
Yeah.
Part of it?
I think what he's talking about is leadership, right? And it's hard, as I've talked with Sam about, it's hard to truly lead when you're in a quarterback battle, to be the leader. And what you've seen from the time that he's realized he's the quarterback is his leadership amongst that offensive unit has continued to just excel. And what that creates is what we call that unit strength. And it's that buy-in. It's that emotional factor that I don't want to let this guy down. I don't want to let this leader down. And I see that amongst the offense. I said this probably 2 weeks ago. In my 2 years here, man, this is maybe the closest group of players I've seen. And you can see it. There's different examples as a head coach. You can just watch and see it. And that's important. When you have that emotional bond, that's when great things really are achieved. And so we have to continue to create that amongst our team, amongst our offense, amongst our defense. There has to be an emotional bond amongst these group of men that they don't want to let each other down.
And not to get carried away on day one, but like the group of corners that you have when they're all available, I mean, how good can that group be?
Could be pretty good, really special. You look at Cam Hart, who's a veteran. He's made a huge jump in a year. And I'm just saying, a guy that has been a starter, he's made a huge jump this summer, just in terms of his work ethic off the field. I think his film study, he's made a huge jump. Benjamin Morrison, we know, had a great year last year, has done some really good things. Clarence Lewis's experience, and then Jaden Mickey's experience. And so as I challenge Coach Mickens a little bit, Clarence Lewis will play some nickel for us, right? So who will be that next corner? We know Jaden Mickey will be there, right? Who's going to be that next corner to emerge? Is it a Christian Gray, a Micah Bell, and one of those young guys, Ryan Barnes, Chance Tucker? Somebody's got to emerge as that fourth corner when we're in nickel.
Next question will be front row on your right, Eric Hansen.
Hey, Marcus, among the guys that came in June, like Antonio and Devin, and then the freshmen that came in June, who's impressed you this summer?
Running or after today?
Both.
You know what? There's Jeremiah Love can fly. I mean, he can fly. I mean, it's impressive to watch him run. Micah Bell's a track kid. He can run. But it's been really impressive to watch Jeremiah Love just this summer being able to move. Now, that type of velocity we talk about versus velocity on the field are two different things. Right? And we've been talking about this in amongst our meetings, like clarity equals velocity. So we got to get those freshmen or those new guys to be crystal clear on what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. So then they can play with that same velocity, okay, that you see in summer conditioning or you see in their high school film. Because, listen, they're great players. They're high school. They're some of the best players in the nation, right, in high school. But that's because they're crystal clear on what they're doing. And so our job as coaches, make sure, how do we catch some of those young guys that just got here in June, catch them up so that they can play with that same velocity that we saw on film.
And with Fred and his situation, I just want to be clear, you know, Matt Bayless wasn't just a guy blowing a whistle. He set a culture for the program and so forth. I would imagine Fred has some of his own ideas, or is this a matter of, you know what, you kind of alluded to it, but I want to be clear, stay with kind of Matt's culture during the season and then...
Yeah, I would...
And then also, will he have a chance to be in the mix when you maybe come in first?
Yes, he will be considered. You know, the head coach and the strength coach, their culture has to be the same. We can't have a culture in the weight room that's different than the culture of the head coach. And so that is our culture. That's the University of Notre Dame football program's culture. It's not Bayless, it's not Freeman, it's our culture. And that culture won't change, right? Those standards that we have won't change no matter, again, maybe not who's the head coach. If there's a new head coach, you might have new standards. But no matter who's the strength coach, no matter who's the position coach, we have standards for our football program in a culture that everybody has to make sure they're as clear. I said this to the staff, and I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent, but I said this to staff, like, I can get in front of the team and say, this is our culture, this is what we want out of you. But the most powerful voice to those young people are going to be the position coaches. So they have to speak the exact same message with the exact same clarity as I'm speaking. So I don't care if you're the strength coach, I don't care if you're the position coach. We have to have a clear message that's driven from the head coach down.
Next question will be from Tim Priester, third row on your left.
Coach, to follow up on Pete's question about cornerbacks and not to read too much into the first day, but I just wondered if over the course of the summer when the DBs were going head-to-head with the wide receivers, the DBs is a more experienced group. Were they ahead of the young wide receivers? Did you get indications of that this summer?
You know I'm not allowed to be out there when they're going
one-on-one. I understand that. I'm sure. Right? I'm sure the players volunteered some feedback.
Yeah, if you talk to the wideouts, they kill the DBs. You talk to the DBs, you kill the wideouts. Listen, we're out there when we do 7-on-7 with no ball, right? That's something we can be out there. But listen, it's awesome work. You know, I saw Tobias and Ben Morrison go up for a play today, a one-on-one and a 50-50 jump ball, and Ben Morrison came down, but that's going to make us better. That competition of two elite competitors that are ultimately super talented is going to make this team better. And so I want it to be back and forth. You know what? Benjamin Morrison got Tobias Merriweather today on a one-on-one ball. I hope Tobias, and I'm sure Tobias will get him back.
And then a question about a couple young guys. Jaden Mickey kind of struggled at the end of last year. He had a really good day today. What have you seen? How have you seen him grow? And then secondly, Jadarian Price looked like he practiced with no restrictions. Will you kind of monitor him as you go through the next couple weeks and maybe give him some time off to make sure that the Achilles is right?
Yeah, if necessary. Absolutely. We'll monitor all of our guys, but especially those guys coming off of injuries. We'll monitor their workload to make sure that, hey, we're giving them the best chance to perform at their full potential when we play in Dublin, Ireland. As far as Jaden Mickey, you know, I had a conversation with him actually and his father that, you know, he started for Notre Dame as a true freshman, especially when we played USC, and that's hard enough to do, all right? And that's accomplishing some things that not many freshmen do. And so I thought he did terrific, right? Did he get some balls caught on him? Yeah, that's okay. And so what Jaden Mickey can't do is compare his journey to maybe Benjamin Morrison's, right? And he's just got to focus on him. And that's what I've had deep conversations with him about. Man, you've done unbelievable as a true freshman at Notre Dame to go out there and start versus USC and play. I wrote it down. Jaden Mickey played 248 snaps last year, and so that's a huge accomplishment. For him, it's just continue to gain that experience, continue to improve at your craft. He won't lack confidence. He doesn't. He doesn't lack confidence, and that's huge because at that position, you're going to get balls caught on you. You're going to miss a tackle, but you have to make sure you have the confidence that it takes to have success.
Next question will be from Tim O'Malley, second row on your right.
Coach, you touched on Love and Price, and I wanted to circle back to running backs and kind of leaving Estime out of it because we know about him. Those four guys now with Ford and Payne finally being healthy going to a training camp, I know there was no tackling today, but they all seemed quick. They all seemed decisive and involved. What's your expectation for those kind of four reserves?
Yeah, I talked to Coach McCullough about this in that we've known about J.D. Price, right? He's been here a year. He did a heck of a job last spring before he got hurt. Jabron Payne did a great job this spring. Devin Ford is a transfer from Penn State, and then Jeremiah Love is an incoming freshman. I think out of that whole group at Notre Dame, we have 2 snaps, right? And there's experience for us, but there's 2 snaps. Devin Ford played a little bit more at Penn State, but he also had a year where he didn't play. And so it's really inexperience on the field. And so we have to, get those guys as much experience here in these however many practice we have before we play that first game, so we can know who we can truly count on. But it's a deep group, a talented group that just is inexperienced.
This is probably better for August 8th when we talk to you again, but we know about the 3 senior linebackers. It's a unique situation. There's 3 seniors that play a lot and all the guys that are redshirt freshmen and freshmen. The 5 young guys, what do you expect to see from them in terms of growth starting now until next camp?
Yeah, that's a challenge, right? It's easy to just throw Maris, Kaiser, and JD in there and feel really good about calling all these different defenses, but we're going to have to count on Snead. We're going to have to count on Ziegler and count on a couple of those young guys that just got here in January. And so I'm going to challenge Coach Golden, hey, maybe get some of those older guys, get the reps they need, get them out there. Let's put the younger guys in with the ones and see how they're able to perform, because you can't simulate the pressure that's going to be on with the stadium packed in Dublin, Ireland. But we got to try to find ways in practice, instead of making them comfortable with the 2s, get them in there with the 1s and see if they can perform. So we have to develop that group. We know the older guys can do what they do, as you said, but we have to develop the middle part of that group. Yeah.
Next question will be from Tyler James, second row on your left.
Marcus, in what ways have you challenged Benjamin Morrison to expand upon what he was able to do as a freshman last year?
I think what I've talked to Ben about is that there is no finish line, right? And his goals probably as a freshman to come in and play for Notre Dame. We ended up starting. You just set you end up being a freshman All-American. You just set new challenges. And for him, it's what's the next challenge for you? How much are you going to continue to improve at your craft? And I think the greatest example for him is his father, who played in the NFL for many years, and just that, hey, you don't stop getting better, right? One of the things I talk to the group about is challenge everything. You guys have heard me say that plenty of times. Well, what does that really mean to you, Benjamin Morrison? It's a growth mindset. Like, are you going to come in every day and choose hard and do the things it takes to become a better football player? Because there isn't no finish line, right? There isn't a finish line. You just have to have constant improvement, and that's what he focuses on.
We saw KK Smith was out with his arm in a sling. What is he dealing with, and when do you expect him back?
He had a shoulder surgery. I don't have a timetable on his return. It won't be for a couple months, but he got surgery in the summer. Yep.
Next question will be from Brian Driscoll, second row on your right.
Coach, you obviously want to kind of circle back to the strength conditioning stuff a little bit. In the release yesterday, you guys talked about the innovative sports performance situation, and I know you and I talked this summer about kind of how you've evolved as a coach after year one. When you look at your strength program, you talk about the innovation. What are some things you guys have really looked to try to implement into your strength program this season? I noticed yesterday it just seemed like there was a lot more really good, like 4 to 7 to 8 weight gains with guys.
Yeah.
What are the things you guys have done as you've kind of continue to evolve it and look to always get more innovative?
Yeah, I think ultimately when you look at this in a big picture point of view, how can you help your players reach their full potential, right? And that's the ultimate goal is to give our players a better chance to reach their full potential. And part of that is the sports science, right? Is using the feedback, the technology, the catapult, the different GPS systems we use to give us information. And so that's something I'm big on is that, hey, if there's relevant information that I believe will help our players reach their full potential, give it to me, right? It's something I really didn't understand last year, and trust me, I'm still learning, right? It was something me and Coach Bayless were talking about. We've had these meetings. We have a sports performance staff led by John Waggle that kind of gives us feedback. And I can tailor practices or different things based off what those numbers are telling us. What is their workload? What's their max velocity? What are we expecting to get out of them? And so if we're able to get some type of feedback, I think we can tailor certain practices to ultimately get the outcome that we want. So it's something that I'm still growing in, but I'm definitely using it.
So how do you do that? Like if you and I are trying to learn more about changing from a zone team to a pin and pull team, we can go meet with this team, that team that does that. Is that similar for this part of it? How do you go about like learning about these things and trying to match these things and how they implement into what you're trying to do with your vision, your program?
Yeah, we just I think Waggle's the expert. John Waggle's the expert in the sports science, in the numbers, and then he can give us his recommendations. I have to make decisions if this is what we're going to do or not. Hey, this person might need to be pulled back a little bit. And I might say, hey, no, he needs to get more reps, but it's all just using receiving recommendations from him that can really understand and crunch those numbers. And for us to be able to say, is this something we need to implement or not? That's kind of how we work.
Next question will be from Mike Bernardino, second row on your left.
I moved over here.
You changed seats on me, huh?
I'm going to stick with
I'm used to seeing you right there.
It's a better angle.
All right.
We haven't talked, I don't think, about Antonio Carter, and really hadn't talked much about Thomas Harper because he couldn't really do anything in the spring. What have you observed about those veteran guys? And of course, Rhode Island to here is quite a jump, but Oklahoma State to here not really. What do you like about them? Their experience? What are their personalities like? How much will they be helpful out of the chute?
Yeah. Obviously, Thomas Harper has been here longer. Even though he didn't practice in the spring, he's gotten to really understand the defense and the expectations. And he's played a similar position when he was at Oklahoma State. So his transition probably isn't as drastic as Antonio Carter, who played corner at Rhode Island, that we're playing at safety. So a little bit of a transition for Antonio, and he just got here in June. So two kind of different situations, but both of them I expect to help us this year.
Then I don't think we've talked about this before. The idea that after Buckner leaves and the portal is still out there, and even if it was a preferred walk-on, was there any thought, or did you come close, or could it still happen that you bring in some sort of emergency quarterback? Could be an Ivy League guy, whatever. To just because it's Hartman, and then it's a guy who's got 7 snaps and no throws. Yeah,
we had long discussions about that. Myself, Coach Parker, Coach Gaduli, and we came to the decision that we would rather invest those reps in Steve Angeli and Kenny Minchie, and we believe that they'll develop to be exactly what we want as backups as we go into the season, then to go and try to find somebody out of transfer portal. We felt like we're going to invest in those guys that have been here, and we think their upside is tremendous. So no, we're not going to go get another one, to answer your question. Yeah.
Next question will be from Angelo DiCarlo, front row on your right.
Coach, you said Coach Bayless kind of cut you off guard with that phone call. Did you see any hints this summer or last season or the spring that this might be coming?
No. Again, I part of it was personal, right? And he didn't really tell me exactly what those personal reasons were, but at the end of the day, when he says this is what's best for me and my family, you got to respect that. But no, I had no idea that he was going to resign, and we've always worked together. We talked about how to continue to get better and things like that, but never did I think I was going to get that phone call on Sunday.
Is that then among the biggest adversity you've faced as a coach? Obviously, there's the losses that occurred last year, but where does that kind of rank? Because it's kind of one of those ones that catches you off guard.
They all stink. I mean, it's all hard. I can't say this one was hard enough. Losses hurt. Anytime you lose staff members, you lose games, you lose players to the portal, like those losses, they're never easy to get over, but you have to, right? You have to move forward, and you always have to have a plan in place. right, for anybody. I didn't foresee Coach Bayless leaving, but I've always had plans in place, like what happens if Coach Bayless leaves? What happens if this person leaves? What happens if a player leaves? You have to make sure you have a plan and you're proactive instead of being reactive. So it never gets easier, but the ability to move forward faster is to me what has to happen.
Final questions at today's press conference come from Tyler Horkoff, front row on your left.
Coach, we saw Chris Tyree rep with the ones a bunch today, make a few catches as well. I know the fall is going to tell you a lot, but where do you think he is right now as a wide receiver compared to where he was in the spring?
He's even more experienced. I don't know. I talked to Coach Stuckey. We had a staff retreat, and he gave me the amount, I think 18,000 balls he caught. Coach Stuckey could give you the right number, but I think it was around 18,000. And all those wideouts have really done a good job of working at their craft, and give credit to Coach Stuckey for really helping develop those guys and pushing them this summer. But he's just gotten better and better and better. And then the confidence and trust between Sam Hartman and our quarterbacks and Chris Tyree, right? And trust is built over time. That's not going to be because I say you guys got to trust each other, throw the ball right there, and he's going to catch it. You know, it's like overtime repetitions of both guys constantly doing it right builds that trust. And so they've worked tirelessly this summer, and you've seen really the improvement from spring till now.
You mentioned Angeli a little bit earlier on. This feels like one of the first falls in a while where the backup quarterback isn't being talked about as much as the presumed starter. But, Angeli's kind of had this role now ever since Tyler got hurt early on last season for, like I said, for a while now. Where do you think he is, and can you see him as the potential future of this program? I thought he looked really good today.
Yeah, and if we didn't, we would have went and got a transfer portal quarterback, right? And that's the conversation we had. We believe Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchie, both of those guys can be the future of Notre Dame football at the quarterback position. And, I've seen a couple things out of Steve, right, is he's constantly hanging out with Sam Hartman, right, and really learning the habits that Sam has as a starting quarterback, as an elite quarterback. And so I think that's helping, Steve. But also last year, if you think about it, it was game 2. He's gone from being a third scout. He was on scout team, being a third-string quarterback, to you're thrusting to being one play away. Well, he knows he's one play away now. And I think his mindset is different from last year than where it is now. And so I've seen him continuously improve, and I look forward to seeing what he does the rest of camp. Yep.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.